if you spend all your time looking over the fences, then you don't tend your own garden.
Hey, that's a bar, man. Because I'll be looking at my neighbour's garden sometimes, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, that grass is really green,
We
man.
all do. We all slip into it.
No, thanks for coming on the pod, bro. I really
having
appreciate
me.
that, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, man. So you're from North London, born and raised, yeah?
Yeah. Well, we moved when I was about 7 or 8
Yeah.
to St Albans, but I didn't,
So you see, like, in terms of stand-up, yeah? Like, for you, like, because I love like a comedian to comedian chat when it comes to stand-up, because we were just talking about Edinburgh and stuff like that. Like, you said you like Edinburgh.
Yeah.
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 What is it you love about the Edinburgh, man?
I feel like it's hard. It's hard work. But I've also had a lot of good Edinburghs.
Yeah.
So it's it's good. But I've done it since I was about 16.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we did we had a really good drama teacher when we were at school, and she took us up when we were 16. We did a school play. We did 3 school plays, 1997, 1998 and 1999. And then in 2001, I wrote my first sort of play.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did plays up until about 2006, and then I did comedy.
What was it like going to Edinburgh in the 90s?
That makes me feel really old. Like, granddad. I mean, because it was weird, because it was really good training, because we went up and we had to look after our own... we did Romeo and Juliet, and I was the prince in Romeo and Juliet. And we had to look after our own costumes, and we all stayed like students, like in student accommodation, but we were all 16. Well, it ranged from ages. I guess there was sort of like year 11 till upper sixth form.
Yeah.
We had to fly, we had to do all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't remember how long we did. We either did 2 weeks or 1 week, but I just remember at the end of it just absolutely being fucking exhausted. And I remember I washed my hair and it all came out black because I hadn't showered when I was up there. I was 16. And, and it was just sort of like... we went to see stand-up comedy, went to see Jason John Whitehead at the Tron, and went to see Al Murray in the Courtyard at Pleasance. And it's really good. You haven't done it much, though, have you?
I've only done it once. And you know what? I have this love and hate thing for Edinburgh. I love it in the sense of when you're there and you're gigging, it's very much like... you're gigging back to back every day. You know what I mean? You don't know who's coming. A lot of people who normally come might be for a recommendation or just some tourist who might just be walking around and was like, oh, we'll check this out. I think that's when you're very new, I think when I went there, me and another comedian called K-Curd, we were still quite new within our comedy journeys. So, having seen Edinburgh, I think the year before, it was like, oh, wow, this is where you want to be, because you have actors there. You have everything. You have everyone there. Yeah, so
a lot of jugglers.
Oh yeah, there's loads of like real street performers in it. Yeah. So I think for me, the love I have for it is the craft of just entertainment and creatives that are all types. You got burlesque people there. You've got like everyone. I think everyone's there.
Yeah.
But I think where the hate comes, the hate for me is the weather.
Yeah, of course, because you like nice weather.
I love nice weather. But what's the annoying about the Edinburgh weather is the fact that it's August and it feels like winter weather.
You get a bit of sunshine, but you get 3 out of 26 days.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and I think that for me is like, knowing that back down here in London, it's like, oh man, it's like hot every day.
Yeah, but it's humid, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite humid, actually.
Kind of like, because you dress for rain, but then all of your body heat gets contained in whatever you're wearing, and then you go and see shows. Loads of people get ill during Edinburgh.
Oh yeah, everyone gets a cold.
Because you're kind of like hot and cold, and you're sweating, but you're freezing, and yeah, it's difficult. And there's also, when you go into the caves, everyone used to say that there were loads of... plague people that died of the plague buried in Edinburgh.
Oh, really?
And when it rains, all the plague water comes down.
I didn't know that.
I don't think it's true.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
But it's horrible, isn't it?
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah. So when you're watching an hour of stand-up, you're getting the plague.
I didn't know that, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have this love and hate for it. But I do appreciate what it does, I think, for the arts. To have something like that in our own backyard is still a privilege, I believe,
Well, and also when I started doing stand up in late 2006, when I started doing stand-up, there weren't like that many gigs in London because I was living in St Albans with my family because I moved there in 1980s, and I'd come into London, but like when I did my first gig, it was just after I wrote a play. Started writing it when I was in school, and I finished it in 2006. But the way I do Edinburgh is I book it in, I come up with a title, come up with some blurb, I book it in, and then I write the show. Yeah. And then every time I get lost on the way to writing the show, I just remember what the title is and what the blurb is. And if I've got a really nice poster, I look at the poster and say, I've got to deliver that poster. And, know, but there were hardly... So I spent ages writing this play. And then... it got 1 star in the Scotsman. Right?
Oh, really?
And it's fine. But it was a printing error, and it should have got 2 stars, right? But the thing is, it's like no one goes to see a 2-star show. But loads of people go and see a 1-star show,
Oh, really?
Because it's terrible.
I didn't know that,
If you got a 5 and you got a 4 or 5 and a 1, I think those are the must-see shows, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when something is bad, people want to see it?
Yeah, it's cruel.
I didn't know that in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Right,
so it actually benefits you not to even have a show sometimes.
Because everyone's like, well, why is this show so bad? Is that the logic?
I guess so. My show, it wasn't bad. But I mean, whoever it was hated it. But so that was my thing. It was just like, oh, right, it took me 9 years to write this 1-star show. So I'll just do stand-up. And when I first did stand-up, it was like you were writing stuff on the way to the gig or you were saying stuff spontaneously on stage. It's just like, well, you don't have to... spend months and months and years writing it and rehearsing it and previewing it. You can just get up there and kind of like do it with stand-up. And then there were so few gigs. You could do like 1 gig every 2 weeks. So you didn't really learn anything in between the gigs. Yeah. Because, you'd get so nervous by the time you'd do 1 gig, 2 weeks later, you'd get so nervous that you couldn't learn anything. So it was like really slow progression in the 2000s. Yeah. But when you do Edinburgh, you have like a year's worth of gigs in one. And so you always, like, especially when you're starting out, you always end up like much better than when you started, Yeah. So, like, I think Edinburgh's way too expensive to do for most people now.
Oh, it's so expensive, man.
And it just cuts out a huge kind of demographic of comedians. You know what I mean? You get like posh rich people doing it, but like all the working class kids can't do it. Yeah. So for me, it was just completely like invaluable on getting. And also there'd be stuff like I wasn't any good at comparing. So then you'd go up to Edinburgh and you'd go, I'm going to do comparing for a month. And by the end of that, you find your weaknesses and then you kind of like look at Edinburgh as a way of strengthening that. So, I mean, I love it. But also it's given me so much,
Yeah. You went to Edinburgh before you done stand-up comedy. Yeah. So you went there with the play of, it was Romeo and Juliet,
Romeo
right?
and Juliet, yeah.
So would you say that acting was like your first love for wanting to like perform as opposed to comedy?
I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be creative, and I knew that when I was at school, I did loads of... Well, I mean, I didn't really find myself until about year 11. I didn't have a good time at school. And then when I did, end of year 10, 11, I started hanging around with all the cool kids in the art block, and then I started doing all the school plays. But and then I was, I was in a band, and I was good at art. I loved doing all the creative stuff. But in terms of kind of like sitting down and learning stuff was terrible. So in terms of acting, I thought I wanted to act. But then I was really terrible at learning lines, and I'd get so nervous at getting on stage. So then that's why I started writing, because I was like writing my own stuff so I could act that. Yeah. And I'd have more control over what I was doing. And then that was like, and then 2006 1-star show, and then I was like, when I first did my first gig, I was like, oh right, that's the missing piece. Do you know what I mean? And then it all just made sense after that. And through stand-up, I've gone back and I've done acting, and I've written like short films, and I've done a few films, and I've done poetry, and I've done some do you know what I mean? It's sort of like stand-up has given me loads, and Edinburgh is kind of responsible for that. Yeah. But I was happy before anything happened.
Are you dyslexic?
No, I think I'm dyspraxic.
What's that one?
That's like spatial dyslexia.
Oh, is it?
But it's got nothing to do with what you're talking about.
Okay. Only because what you were saying before sounds so similar to myself in terms of comedy's given me a lot, and it's the one thing that I really honed in on.
Yeah.
Like I liked anything. Like I liked going to art. I liked music.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't say I'm not great at drawing. I'm not great at music, but I always liked any of the creative stuff. And once I was able to hone in, but also what you were saying about learning lines and like, where I remember when I first started doing TV and I was just like, well, I've got to remember this whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, and say it to a camera.
Terrific, right?
I'm like, and everyone's watching me without an auto cue. I was like, this is barbaric.
Did he give you an auto cue?
So we was filming something. What was we filming? We was filming something. This wasn't in a studio. It was something outside, and it was like, you know, like where a director would say, "Yeah, just say that," and and you're like, okay, like, but you know when they say the whole, but say it in your own way.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. So I'd done what comics do. You say it in your own way, a little comedy twist, and then they say, yeah, now if you can do the one, just the lines, there it is. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm copying a line. I'm saying it. It's like, yeah. You missed this word, and I'm like, bro,
do it your way, but do it the way we want it.
I was fighting for my life.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man. And I had to keep saying it and saying it. But again, like learning lines, like I'm a lot better at it now because I've found techniques that work. But very early on, whenever I started doing all of this stuff, it was the one thing where I was like, mate, this is a struggle, man.
Yeah.
Like real struggle.
Yeah.
So like comedy, you honed in on comedy. You went to Edinburgh, you said in 2006.
How do you learn your lines?
I think now what I do, I write it. You know, one thing I do, I learn it and then I write it out. I say it and then I say it with writing it out. So I say it, I learn it, I visualize it, then I write it out and then I'm like, cool. And I go back and I keep going and I keep going and I keep saying it. And then I'm like, I've got the line. And then once I know the line, then I try the line in different ways. So one way that I learned how to learn lines is if you say them in different accents, because you can then get to have fun of...
Oh, right.
Because then all you're memorising is saying the line in an Australian accent, say the line in an American accent.
But the focus isn't on the words, right?
Yeah, it's now focusing on doing the accent, doing it angry, doing it happy. And that worked really well. And one time I'd done this film, and we had to film it in Estonia. I learnt the lines, and then the director was like, yeah, great, if you just do it in your own way. And I was like, bro, come on, man. I've learnt these lines for like 3 weeks, bro.
Yeah.
So I think that's one trick that I learned. So anytime I meet any like young actors, or I always say, look, just try that. It worked for me.
That's
you know
really
what I mean?
good. I think that's really good.
And it allows the brain to focus on another part. And you always know the line, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you kind of remember it in like a flat way, where you're kind of like blah, 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 blah. And then sort of like the character comes in after, I think. And that is not a very good way of doing it.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of like learning kind of like the tones of the voice as you kind of, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to do that from now
No,
on.
take that, man.
Yeah,
take that
really
tip.
good.
Anyone listening, take these tips, man. You know what I mean? So you went to Edinburgh in 2000. Your first show was 2006. Is that your first
stand-up.
show? Stand-up show.
My first stand-up show was 2007. My first gig was September 2006, and my second gig was February 2007.
Oh, okay.
And then I did a three-hander in Edinburgh.
What, your first time doing stand-up was 2006?
Yeah.
Raw. So you never done any stand-up before Edinburgh?
No.
Raw, that's crazy. That is crazy. Because most people do like some open mics and stuff, or just...
Oh no, I'd done stand up like I was doing stand up before Edinburgh. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Did you do any of the competitions? Because I've done a few. I done like Laughing Horse, Amuse Moose.
Laughing Horse. Did I do Amuse Moose? I worked for Amuse Moose. That's how I started.
Oh, okay.
I used to put out chairs for Hills Jago.
Yeah, big up Hills, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what, on Saturday nights I'd come into London and then I'd be part of the Amuse Moose team.
Oh,
and we'd put out chairs, where was it? Moonlighting, just at Greek Street.
Yeah.
And and then you'd just watch all the comedy for free and then you'd meet all the comedians and it'd be like, but yeah, and that's how I started. And then I, went over to I did the Amuse Moose competition. I was in the same year as Catherine Ryan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting when you are in that competition? Because I feel like when I done competitions, I remember they would have a prize. I remember one time the prize was like £1,000. And in my head I was like, what if I win this? I can buy a car. Fiat Punto, I said. I'm going to buy a Fiat Punto. And I can drive to the gigs, so I'll be able to, because that's a big thing when you first start doing comedy.
Yeah, I didn't have any money. I had no money. I had holes in my shoes.
Yeah,
like just before I did I had like quite a big show the show that kind of changed my life was in 2010, and just before that, I didn't have any money at all. Like literally, I mean, the week before Edinburgh, and I ended up getting an advert. And I did this advert, and it was a gambling advert, and I felt really bad about it. But it was back in the days where they did repeat fees. So they'd pay you loads of money for the advert, for the day, and they'd pay you loads of money for the photo shoot so they could promote the advert. And then what you'd get was you'd get like 200 quid every time it was on telly. And because it was a gambling advert, they showed it during the premiership. So there'd be an advert before, advert in the break, advert during like the chat in the middle, advert. So you'd get, it was like there was so much. It was absolutely ridiculous. It completely changed my life. But it was this gambling advert that I was really ashamed of, and the whole concept of it. I think it was Betfair, and I think the whole concept of it was cut out the middleman. Yeah, so you don't have to go to a gambling shop. You just go and do it all online. But then there was a problem with the advert because they realised that Betfair were the middleman.
Yeah.
So they deleted the advert. So I got all the money, but there's no proof that I did it. It's great. It was like the perfect crime.
Yeah. So you get the money, and then before you know it, it's just wiped clean.
Yeah.
Just erased.
Yeah.
Trash bag empty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cold, man.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, I've only ever done one TV advert. And, yeah, like, TV adverts, especially I think for comedians as well, like, they are the thing where it's like you're saying, it's like financially. Because when you start doing comedy, you look for avenues of like, okay, cool, I would love to, I don't know, be in a film, but stand up on the circuit doesn't pay well in terms of like, you can make a bit of money that can get you through maybe the week if you are even one of those paid comics, but it's still a struggle. Do you know what I mean?
Like to do a gig like just South London, on the outskirts of South London, takes about an hour to get to, and then you're there beforehand, and then you do the gig, and then you're there a little bit afterwards, and then it takes however long to get back again. So sometimes you look, even with a gig in London, you're looking at like maybe 5 or 6 hours to just kind of like do a round trip, and so the money that you get for that, you get paid for the gig, but in actual fact, it's taken like a whole evening to do it all.
Yeah.
And if you're travelling outside of London, you know, like in Manchester or somewhere, you've got to go all the way there, you've got to stay overnight, you've got to come back again. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like the money is great from the gigs. That's great. But if it was just the gigs, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
But it's all the time it takes around it.
Yeah.
You know, because people go, oh, you only work 20 minutes a day. But sometimes you're travelling for 8 hours to do it.
Just to get there, do 20 minutes, hoping you're like, and you know what it's like when you first are on the circuit, especially because I always say there's like two circuits. You've got your kind of mainstream London circuit where you might be doing a weekend at a club where you're like, cool, I'll earn about maybe £500-600 that weekend doing the Friday, Saturday shows, your 2 shows. And then there's that other circuit which is doing shows in the arse end of nowhere where, especially if you don't drive, I think people don't realise that if you don't drive, which means you have to then get a train to a most randomest remote part of the country, there's no Uber, there might be a minicab, they're telling you, oh no, it's all right, the promoter will pick you up. So you got to have this random conversation with the promoter. You get there and it might be a pub, it might be upstairs in a social club, there's another comic.
Yeah.
And and then it's like,
you've got no idea what you're walking into.
You have no idea. But you ever had the stress of when you're going to get to this gig and you've agreed the fee and they're like, oh, it's like £150. And you're like, all right, cool, I'll do that. Your train ticket might have cost you £30 already. You know your return is at 9:30. You get there at 8 o'clock. And they're like, yeah, we're going to start a bit later. Let's just wait for a few more people to come in. You're like, I hear that, but my train's at 9:30. And they're going to pay you cash. But the gig is started late. The person promoting it is hosting the gig. He really wants to get the gig going and make it really fun. He goes on at 8:30. You go on at 9 o'clock. No, you have a train at 9:30.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh God, you're like, bro, I need to go in half an hour. You want me to do 25 minutes?
Yeah.
It's all right, I'll drop you off. It's okay. And then you're just thinking, cool, I need to get paid cash though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a stressful life,
it's
man.
It's really stressful.
So stressful, man.
It's really stressful. I got diagnosed with bipolar last year, and at the end of the year, I got diagnosed with ADHD. Boring, but that's the truth. And I didn't realise, but I can't do anything. I mean, I think that's the problem with line learning. So I can't do anything unless it's an emergency. So I do get that stress coming back from a gig, but my main stress is getting to every gig.
Okay.
I get so panicky that I can't read numbers or words.
Oh wow.
So I had a gig in Crawley once, and I just missed my train, and I couldn't read anything, and I couldn't read any numbers or anything.
Oh, really?
So I just had to get an Uber.
Yeah.
From fucking London Bridge.
Oh
I just had an absolute meltdown.
Yeah.
But the travel is the most, the travel's the most stressful thing. And then the gig is stressful.
Yeah.
I think the last 5 minutes before you get on stage is just the worst. And then as soon as you're on stage, it's either an amazing gig or a terrible gig or somewhere in between. But I think knowing what sort of gig it is just a relief.
Yeah.
But just like, coming up with, I sometimes come up with like plan Bs. If I forget that bit, then I'll do this. And then you end up learning the plan B and go, just learn plan A, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just find, I find the whole travel and everything around the gig really stressful. But actually being on stage, I love.
It's like a relief sometimes. You're like, I'm on, finally. Cool. And then sometimes the problem can be is like when the show you didn't think was going to be good actually ends up being like one of your best shows in terms of, oh, this is really nice, good vibes, man. But you're like, I got to kind of wrap this up though, but they absolutely love me here in this small town in Folkestone. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is absolutely amazing. So you done this Betfair advert before you went to Edinburgh in 2010, right?
I had no money and I had loads of credit card debt and everything. And then basically that advert paid off all my debts. Oh, and then I was debt-free. I didn't really have any money, but I was debt-free. And it was
such a sigh of relief.
Because you don't have any money and you go over your overdraft and they charge you 20 quid. And it's just like...
Listen... I've been there, man. When I remember I was borrowing off a credit card lender. I used to borrow money from Wonga. Do you remember Wonga?
Yeah.
Have the adverts. Bro, their one was crazy because they would have this thing online, where you could see how much you wanted to borrow, right? And then it would calculate the interest of when you want to pay it back. So I would say, you know what, I'll take £150, but I'm like, if I pay it back this time, I'm paying back the £150. Pay it back a bit later, what, 175? What's £25 if I get another week? Oh my God, man. I started borrowing money from them. And then there'd be times where, sometimes waiting for an invoice to pay, it doesn't come. So I'd have to borrow money from another lender, one called Sunny. I don't remember. Have you seen that? Their adverts are crazy. They got some old Motown music. Sunny.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I thought, great advert. Borrowed from them to pay back Wonga.
Yeah.
And then there was another company. And then it's like, I was so young, I didn't understand all this APR stuff.
Well, yeah, me too.
So they're like, yeah, man, like repayments is like 200% APR. I'm like, should be all right, innit?
Yeah.
But when you miss a payment, oh my God.
You end up just shuffling money from account to account.
It's one of the worst places to be in, man.
Yeah, it's awful.
100%, man. I listen. Yeah. And it's weird, like, I don't know if you had this, like, I remember when I paid off my debt on the credit card I had, it was such a relief for me, but doing it on the phone and being like, I'd like to pay this off and also cancel my account. It was like, all right, great. Thanks a lot, mate. All sorted, bye. And I was like, I wanted him to say congratulations or something.
Yeah. Well, you got to do that for yourself. But it's an amazing, And I've never had a credit card since.
No?
I think they're evil. Credit cards are evil.
No, do you know what it is? I think when you get a credit card when you don't have any money, it's one of the worst things,
you're vulnerable,
places to be in.
Because you're desperate. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels, I don't know, I remember when I first got one, it felt like free money.
Yeah.
It really felt like free
Yeah. I got
money.
my first one when I was at university, and it was just like, "Ah."
Yeah. You're like, this is great, man. What? It's just swipe. That's it. Free money. It is, yeah, it's very dangerous, man. Very, very dangerous, man. So then in 2010, when you go to Edinburgh, like you do this show that you say essentially like changes your life. Was it the show Keep Hold of the Gold? Was that the show? Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
It brought you a lot of like widespread notoriety and stuff. How did it change your life?
Well, loads of people can see it. I've done Edinburgh. How many shows had I written? I did a show in 2001. I did Air Freshener in 2001, Christmas Tree in 2002, Love Life in 2004, Nothing in 2005. 2006 I did my show Stroke. 2007 I did a play called A Third of the Way Done, and my first stand-up show where there was three of us. And in 2008, I wrote a musical, and I did my double act, and I compared a show. And then 2009, I was meant to do a three-hander with Sean Walsh and his friend Robin Buckland, and they dropped out right at the last minute. Yeah. And it was for PVH. Yeah. And I tried to like go, well, I can't do the show because the two people I'm doing it with can't do it. And he said, you have to fill the hour, otherwise I'll blacklist you. And I was like, and I was, 28? And I didn't want to be blacklisted from the industry because I didn't realise the power of PBH. Yeah. But, so I had to do an hour, and I just scraped together a bunch of, like, songs and poems and stand-up that I'd been working on. And I took it up for the month in 2009. What was that called? Bad Things Happen in Trees. And literally, first day there was like 3 people in the audience. And then after about a week, it was standing room only. And I didn't even have any flyers, and I didn't have any PR or anything. It was just word of mouth. But you don't really know what word of mouth is when you're in it. Yeah. Because people start coming to your shows, and you're like, how did this happen? And so 2009, I was like, fine. And then 2010, I got a paid venue, which was for the £5 Fringe at the Tron. And I was literally, I was going to do Edinburgh one last time, and then I was going to take a break. And when I did that, same thing. I went up, and there was like 8 people in the first day and over the first weekend. And then it built and built. I did a thing where I'd get people out the audience, where I'd get people on, and it was literally going to be one person at first. And I'd get people out the audience, and I'd sing a song. It went, nice to meet you, nice to greet you, nice to meet you, nice to greet you, nice to meet you, nice to greet you, nice to say hello, right? And I'd get someone out of the audience, and I'd make them do it to me, right? Yeah. But there were so few people in the audience, just got everyone on stage. And then the next day there was like 10 people, and I'd get them all on stage. Yeah. And by the end of it, it was standing room only. And I was working with my friend Rob, who was a guitarist and an actor, and it was just standing room only. There was just sort of like, I think Jimmy Carr was in, and my mate was like, what are you going to do with the audience? And I said, well, I'll just get them all on stage. So I got everyone on stage. What I would do is I get everyone on stage except for one person. And like, I think that as sort of, it wasn't a stunt. It was just sort of like, it happened quite organically. But I think that kind of like was something that people hadn't really seen before. And then everyone was sort of like talking about it. But then, Jimmy Carr came to see it, and Daniel Kitson came to see it. And based on that show, I got Russell Howard's Good News, which turned me from like a middle spot to a headliner. And then it just sort of like, and then it was just like, well, I have to do next year because that went well. And then I always wanted to do the Pleasance because I saw Al Murray at the Pleasance. And that was 2011, and I got nominated that year, and I won Dave's Best Joke. And the prize for that was £1,000, so I bought a laptop.
Decent. Yeah.
And then that changed my life.
What laptop did you buy?
I got an Apple.
Come on, bro.
I got an iMac. And,
in 2010, that was a staple laptop back in the day.
Yeah. But yeah, it was so it changed my life like that, and then it actually made me realise that you know, I was literally gonna take time off from doing Edinburgh and stuff like that, and then it was like, oh right, it gave me the encouragement to keep going, and then it kind of like built my career. Edinburgh built my career. Yeah, you know? And in 2011. Channel 4 came to see me, and they said, they do the Channel 4 comedy blaps. And they said I could work with anyone I wanted. So I worked with Baby Cow, even though Baby Cow didn't really work with Channel 4, they were mainly BBC. And then because of that, the pilot for Uncle came into Channel 4, which went to Baby Cow.
Yeah.
And then I got cast in that because we'd all worked together.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that was the sitcom I was in.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's cold, man.
It was, but it's like literally, it's just one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. And you start with nothing. You start with no, because all the way through the 2000s, didn't get any audiences really. But I loved doing it, so that's why I did it. You know,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any expectations on career, anything like that. But then as soon as it was taking off, I was like, oh, right, well, I'd like to do an album then. So I did an album, and I'd like to do a short film, so I did a short film. So it just gave you all these opportunities that you never had before.
Yeah, you never had before with stand-up comedy. Isn't it amazing sometimes how, like, with stand-up comedy and the perseverance of just keep going, and before you know it, everything will kind of happen all at one stage for you, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but it's
You know?
a complete leap of faith, you know, and it doesn't work out for everyone.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily a fair industry. You know, there's some really funny comedians that never quite make it, and there's some people that you don't really rate that do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so but then again, if it happens to you, it is fair because you've worked really hard for it.
Yeah.
So it's completely justified.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally they've noticed. But, yeah.
What's that feeling like of going from being a middle comedian to a headline, where you come from Edinburgh and you have this show that everyone's talking about, and you are, someone that's going on television like Russell Howard's Hour. I done some stand up on Russell Howard's Hour, and it was at a time where I was like, cool, I've got something that can go on YouTube and people can watch it, and it's like a professional audience. I know this audience don't really know me or get me because it's Russell's show, do you know what I mean? But it's still I remember that opportunity at the time was like watching other comics. I think it would normally be Saturdays, it would kind of air. So I can't remember, I think he showed it on BBC Three, but then they have the longer one that would have some of the stand-up on it. But I'm not too sure because I think I'd done it when he went to Sky. So I'm not too sure.
I can't remember because it was like the extra bit at the end.
Yeah.
He hadn't seen me when I did it. So
I don't think he's seen me, to be fair, either.
Like, he really distanced himself from me. Like, a few of my friends went to see him in Edinburgh. They said he's good. Let's see what happened. You know, and I was like, great intro. You know, it was, but that was incredible. That gig was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know me going on, and by the end of it, they went nuts, and I had to do a pickup because they didn't get a line or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went, so I was off, and they said, you've got to go back on and do a pickup. And when I went on, they the noise was like, they just roared. And I was like, I'm just going to do the same stuff again, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was just completely.
Was that your first time doing stand-up comedy on television?
Yeah. Yeah, was it? Yeah, I think it was. I've done some sketch stuff, probably 2008, 2009, but I didn't write them, and I was just part of this group. But that was the first time. But obviously, when did you start?
Oh, I started. I don't even know. I just remember I was 19, but at the time I was just trying to do open mic stuff wherever I could just get a gig, basically. But I think I done Russell Howard's Hour in May. I feel like I want to say 2017. I think I might have done it. Right. 2017, I think I've done it.
Yeah. Well, also, you grew up in a different time to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Which means we didn't really have YouTube. I mean, we had YouTube, but it was like over there somewhere.
You'd watch like, I don't know. Like when I look back at YouTube, what I used to watch, and I was like, wow, this was rogue stuff, man. Yeah. I was watching battle raps to like, I don't know, man, cats juggling or some shit. It's just like, well, now it's like YouTube is like, okay, I want to watch a deep podcast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tune into it, or sometimes if I need to learn how to do something, YouTube's become a huge tool for me.
Yeah, absolutely, it's great for that.
Yeah. I made some lamb chops over the summer, and I was like, I really want it to be tender and juicy. And I was watching these people, and was like, okay, what you want to do, man? So I love those YouTubers. Hey, what's up? So you want to make soft lamb chops? Great, first you're gonna need. And I was like, all right, cool, follow this. I use YouTube so much for, and just, I don't know if you do this as well, where, you're going to buy an electrical good and you're like, okay, let's see the reviews on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
it's brilliant.
There's always the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's incredible.
Or you put on a 5-hour podcast in the background. And,
Yeah,
and
when you're
paint your
cleaning.
walls. Yeah.
It's
really
incredible, man.
Yeah. I mean, the difference really is that, you know, in 2011 when I did my show, I think it was like a 70-seater. And so you do that for a month. So really by the end of the month, 1,500 people have seen you. Right?
Yeah.
And that got me a sitcom. But now it's all about social media. And if you don't have a certain amount of followers, they're not interested.
That's it.
And it's like, I got my career of 1,500 people coming to see me.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, well, this is a secret that we've discovered, you know. But now it's like, you've got to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I mean, I was doing it all myself, but like, it's just different. You know, the business side of it is different.
Yeah, it's how, I guess it's how it changes. Because even for myself, like, social media helped me find my audience, and I always feel like my audience helped spread the word of what I was able to do, whether it was sketch stuff or they might see some stand-up stuff. But it allowed me to do so much more than just stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas even now that's changed. Like, you can't just, yes, you need a presence on social media, but you know, I didn't really even used to put up too much of my stand-up. A lot of my audience didn't know I was a stand-up. They was like, oh, he does like these really funny videos of characters and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I do stand-up as well. I've been doing this for like absolutely years. So until I done my first show, it was really, I felt like I had to prove to people that I do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, are you going to do some of the sketch stuff that you've done? And I'm like, no, I'm going to do straight stand-up. Whereas now I think the way it's evolved of, you know, comics having that side of their stand-up of, you know, I might do some sketch stuff and I have this. I also have a podcast and I have this as well. But I also have to put up my stand-up clips as well, because I know that my stand-up clips might do really well. But the stand-up clips are mainly crowd work as well.
Well,
so,
that's the best way. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you go and see a lot of gigs, and a lot of gigs are crowd work now. And it's kind of like, that's what audiences expect. And it's kind of like younger audiences, their relationship with stand-up is that it's mainly going to be crowd work. And when you don't do crowd work, it's kind of, you know, like when you're doing like crowd work and then you slip into material and then the atmosphere changes.
You're like, oh, they're listening.
And you're like, oh no, they don't like the material. So, you know, that's kind of...
So, like, you're in your middle, like where you started, and you starred in Uncle on BBC Three in 2000. Was it 2004? It aired.
2014.
2014. Sorry.
I think maybe the pilot was 2014, 13. Pilot was 2013. Series was 2014. Yeah.
How was it? What was it like being part of that? Because, you know, it ran from 2014 to 2017, but did it also allow you to give you other strings to your bow in a sense? Because people knew you as a stand-up, but you're also in this acting world as well. Do you know what I mean?
Some people knew me as a stand-up, but you know, I didn't have that much stuff on. I don't know. Like, it was that period of time is a blur. I can't remember what happened, what year, what was going on. So Uncle it opened me up to an entirely new audience, and also stuff like 8 out of 10 Cats did that. But your 8 out of 10 my 8 out of 10 Cats audience was different from my stand-up audience, and my Uncle audience was different from my stand-up audience. Yeah. So my stand-up is kind of like quite what used to be. A lot more aggressive than it is now, and it used to be kind of like almost like a character on stage. Yeah. And now it's more kind of like I've got better at letting people in on the joke, and it's more of like just a little persona that you put on when you kind of go that like you naturally sort of slip into.
Do people think you're a character because they've seen your work? So when they actually meet you as a person,
they're always surprised that I'm nice.
Yeah.
And they're always like, oh, he's nice. Of course I'm fucking... You know, I'm not him, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, they are. But also that was my act. And it was, you know... But that was my act from my very first gig, which was I was always like, I'm going to do a stand-up show, but as if I've just had some really bad news before I went on stage. And then you've got to reluctantly see through your contractual obligation with the audience until the end of the show. And I'd have like a breakdown on stage and all this other stuff. And obviously, you know, I just think that there's lights, you sell tickets, there's seats, there's a stage.
Yeah.
What about this is real? You know, you can say stuff that's real, but it's a show, you know.
Yeah,
so I've always kind of like seen it as a show, and when everyone takes it kind of like at face value or serious, I just find that bonkers. But people think Jimmy Carr's Jimmy Carr off stage, and you know, Harry Hill's Harry Hill. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but now what I do is at the end of every gig, I go out and I sell merch and I sign stuff and have photos. No one has to buy anything. I just stand out the front at the end. And then they queue up and I meet everyone. And it's really important to me to be kind of like, to get across the fact that the show is meant to be fun. And it might be a roller coaster and you might feel a little bit scared at times or whatever, you know, because I like making people feel, but because my new show is called No One Gets Out Alive. And it was like, you know, it sounds threatening, but it's actually a really positive, uplifting show, you know.
Yeah.
And about making the most out of your life, you know. But yeah, I think people, I like that. I like that element where people feel like they don't know what's going to happen next. But it's also really important to me to let people know that they're all safe, and that it's a show and it's an act, and that's what I do on stage and off stage. I'm like this, and I find that, you know, I talk about mental health and stuff like that on stage. But I never try and be preachy, and I always want to feel like people can approach me, and you know it's really important. And I love my audience, and you know, it means I like doing the merch queue almost as much as I like doing the show, because you get to meet everyone. And what I would say as well is when you do like a tough gig in Exeter where no one laughs for an hour or 2 hours. And you do the merch queue afterwards, you do realise that they all enjoyed the show. They just enjoyed it differently. Like, because the temptation is to run away, right? And go like, oh no,
Worst show I've ever done, man.
But I think it's quite, you know, I'm quite proud of myself to like, even if the gig is tough, I still go out there and I meet everyone. And you know, I love all that. But like, I don't know if this is even answering your question, but like, yeah, the difference between me off stage and on stage, it's a show. And off stage, I just try and be as boring as possible, really, as well. Because like back in the, you know, like 10 years ago, everyone liked me as a comedian. And so I felt like I had to bring a bit of that into my real life. So like when I was out, I'd say outrageous things and I'd act like an animal, right? And which wasn't really me. But I was sort of like insecure about why people liked me, because I'd been doing shows for such a long time, and my personal life was really up and down, and all this other stuff, you know. And so when all of a sudden you get this spotlight on you and you get all this attention, it's confusing at first, and you don't know you don't know what it is that people have hooked in on, you know. And so yeah, I was kind of, I was kind of like trying to be everything for other people, and I didn't really know who I was. And like the last 10 years, I've kind of like really kind of got back in line with myself. And I think there's a thinner line between me on stage and off stage now. I'm a lot more calm and relaxed, but on stage I'm a lot more kind of open. And I think like before I was kind of writing, I was taking my life experiences, amalgamating them and turning them into fiction, you know? So it might be like I'm talking about a breakup, but it might be like 5 different relationships rolled into one, and then you're telling a story. But now I'm kind of like just more like, this is what's happened to me this year, and making a show out of that. And I much prefer it this way. I think it's kind of like I'm much more relaxed. I write on stage. But I think, you know, with the line learning and everything like that, I think that must be, looking back at my life, you go, I think that's, you know, I was diagnosed with depression my whole life. And then last year they were like, well, you've got bipolar. And then they gave me the medication for that. And then like, whoosh, all my depression went. And then, 44, 43 I was then. And then at the end of the year, it was ADHD, and they gave me medication for that. And it was like, oh my God, I can concentrate, and the noises in my head have gone away.
Yeah.
And I think that, I used to have to learn my lines for Uncle, scene by scene, as we did them. So and something happened with my short-term memory where, like, after like a few days, you could look at a page and you'd get the gist of it. And by the time, you got to, the lights and the cameras were set up and you'd kind of done a few takes, then it was like perfect, and then you'd done it. But it was a nightmare because it needed to be an emergency before I could do anything.
Yeah.
And looking back on that, you can kind of like go, I'd have done things differently had I have known. But now it's kind of like, it's sort of like informed me that those are my weaknesses and those are my shortcomings. And that means that I can kind of like take a run up at that rather than leaving it to the last minute.
Yeah.
But,
you saying how you got diagnosed with bipolar, and you said, did that make it easier to write, or was it harder?
What with the meds?
Yeah.
Well, that's the big fear, isn't it? It's like, I know lots of comedians that have depression, and lots of creative people that are scared about medication because they think it's going to change their brain and how it works. I think there's good and there's bad things to it. I think, but I think the good outweighs the bad. In terms of, I'm not suffering for my art anymore. I don't have to be like suicidal in order to write something. Because I was, I had suicidal thoughts in my head the whole time. It's just a bit heavy.
Go as heavy as you need to, bro.
So I had all these suicidal thoughts in my head, and I used comedy as a way of, dealing with that. It was not like, oh, it's therapy. I'd always like concentrate mostly on the entertainment value, but that depression kind of like funneled into everything that I did. And it's like, and I used to write songs when I was depressed, and poems when I was depressed, and you're like channeling that depression into something, and I always thought that as long as I'm doing something creative with it, then it's not a waste of time. You're not wasting your life kind of like feeling terrible. And now it's like I'm sort of the happiest I've ever. I mean, until last year, I don't know if I'd ever really experienced happiness before, and so I'm sort of like, now I'm the happiest I've ever been, and rather than kind of needing depression in order to write and scraping by, just getting what you can and doing a show every year and getting through it. It's like, I've got complete control over myself in a way, and I'm writing shows about stuff that I'm happy about. I'm trying to make audiences happy, and I want to make audiences happy without going like A to B.
Yeah.
So I like people on a roller coaster and taking them down and then bringing them up again at the end, so that they all leave feeling incredible. And that was what was great about my first few shows, was that everyone always left incredible. It was like being on the Saw ride. Right? But by the end of it, you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think the good outweigh the bad. The bad side of it is that I don't have that immediacy. I don't have like that emergency factor where it's last minute and I'm, and I don't know what I'm doing until I got on stage, and then all of a sudden I've got a show. Where I'm slightly better at prepping stuff, but I don't have that emergency level, which I kind of used to rely on to get stuff done. And it's almost like I have to be right there in front of the audience in order for it to kick in. My stage persona to kick in, because I'm not like that anymore. But the good stuff is like, I'm happy. My relationship with my parents is better. My relationship with my sister is better. I can turn up for my niece. I'm a better friend to people. I look after people. I try and use kind of like whatever I've got in order to, help other comedians up through the circuit or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like I'm a better person now that I'm on drugs than I was before,
Yeah.
It's because I'm not in my own head all the time. You can see out of the windows, and be like, oh, right. And windows are eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you're saying, because a lot of comics, myself included, we can often write our best stuff when it's fight or flight mode, where, you know, when we say, you know, we're going to go on tour, we put our tickets on a year in advance, we put the title out, tickets are on sale, and 9 times out of 10, if you ask a comic, if you got your tour ready, like, or your show, they're like, nah, I ain't ready yet.
Yeah.
But then we know, like, when it gets to the crunch of, like, I've got 4 months to do this tour.
But also you know what the show, you kind of know what the show's going to be. And you don't want to be ready too early.
Yeah.
I was talking to my dad last night because I've had some really good previews and I had a couple of weird ones over the weekend. And I, you know, and me and my dad don't talk about comedy or work really, but I just was sort of like, I'd been on my own all day and it was the first person that phoned me. And I was talking to him on the phone and I was like saying, yeah, it's like this. And he goes, yeah, well, you don't want it to be ready yet. You want it to be ready on the day of the show, and you go out and it's got that energy and that spontaneity of it. And your tickets might be on sale for a year and you think about the show for a year and you're kind of like going, I could do that, could do that. You start trying stuff out, but it's, you know, it's not finished until you do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's good.
It's the best. It's weird. It's weird as a comic because it is the better way to write, because I've written shows where I'm like, oh, I've got the show in the bag. And you perform it and you're like, this wasn't it. This wasn't it.
The 2 times I was nominated, the two times I was nominated, it was, I'd do previews with people and they'd have finished shows, you know? And I didn't. And my show came together within the first 3 days of the festival, but I got nominated for both of them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I don't think, but you know, sometimes doing all your homework and being completely prepped and, you know, having everything ready in advance isn't great. You want to build up to the point where you're match fit, and then you can do the tour. And then I think after the tour, you've got a 2-week period where you're match fit, and then you forget how to do it again.
Oh my God, it is. It's so weird where, you know, like the tour is kind of coming up to a close and you're like, I feel like the strongest I've probably ever been as a comic, where I feel sharp, I'm coming up with new stuff, and that moment where you're like, okay, well, that's it, show's done now. I'm gonna, I don't know if you have this, but I do this thing where I'm like, let's chill out for a bit now. Yeah, I might go on a break for like a year. Yeah, I might go traveling. And then like you miss it and you're like, nah man, can I write another show again? And for me, it's always I don't know if I can do it again, you know? I don't know if I can write a show of that level that I've just finished again.
Yeah.
But something always says to you, let's give it a go though, innit?
Yeah, but every show I do is the best show I've ever done.
Yes.
Until the next show.
Yeah.
And it's just because you love the show and you're addicted to it and you've been living in it for such a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to just kind of like keep moving, really. But I don't write stuff. How do you do it? Do you like writing paragraphs with sentences and full stops?
Sometimes, like, I think once I've got the material like there in my head, I'm like, we can expand on this now. I think going into any show, like recently I started doing some work in progress shows, and I just try my best to hit a few bullet points of like, I've got a bit on this, let's see where it goes. I've got a bit on this, let's see where it goes. And it is essentially like writing and directing it on stage.
Yeah.
I think what helps me more now than ever is listening back to it, because it's so different when I'm like, I listen back and I'm like, you could have said that. Because then I start feeling like the audience and watching it now.
Yeah.
I think once I watch it back, it's like, you know what? Had a bit there. Maybe if I scrap all of that beginning bit, that didn't really go anywhere, but that little bit is a bit there and we can see where that bit goes. And I think that's probably helped me the most. I think before I was always writing I was writing for so many aspects of like, okay, cool, this show's going to be this, that, and the other. And we, you know, if I can take that bit off there and the audience will like this bit, we'll have a bit of crowd work here. And before I knew it, I was like, this is too stressful, man. It's like writing an album, and you're trying to write the song for the festival, for the club, and for the car at the same time. And you're like, the audience will decide what they want to hear at the festival and the club, and the car at different times. Do you know what I mean?
You're not in charge of your hit single.
Yes.
You know, your favourite bit might be something that no one else likes, and then they'll take this thing that you're kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
But you're not in control of that. It's kind of weird.
Isn't it interesting with comedy where you've got a bit where you're like, I don't know if you have this as well. I have this thing where I'm like, there'll be a bit where you're like, I love doing this bit. You do it, and then I don't know if you have this one. You're on tour, but after a while, you're like, "This bit isn't fun, man. I can't wait to get this bit over now." Because there'll be a bit where I'm like, "I love this bit," but my audience aren't loving it, but I am, and it's the realization of like, you know what? I think I might have to just drop this, man, because it's not working out, and only I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Like there'll be like jokes or something that don't that you really like, and that the audience. No, it might work in a preview as well, or it might work, in a few previews, and then when you're on tour, it doesn't work regionally.
Yeah.
Or like it's just a reference that people. Not because it's region specific, but just like you go around the country and like people don't like that. But I stick to my guns and I do it anyway. But yeah, I think
because you do it. There's a part of doing it for self. You're like, listen, it might not get a big laugh everywhere else, but I'm gonna do this bit for me, man.
But I also think that like once you've nailed a bit and you've written it and you've performed it a few times and it's really great, then your mind sort of like goes to the other bits that you want to bring everything else up and maybe you concentrate on some of the other weaker bits, and then you get into them and then you really like them, and then your shiny new thing that you used to have that you loved, you've kind of replaced with some other bits.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I've got to trudge through this bit now. I've got 10 minutes I've got to trudge through. With mixed results. And
You have a great ability of bringing music into your comedy and blending that in. Are there ever times where you think like you'd ever wanted to be a musician? Because I like using music within my comedy to sometimes bring out more of the comedy, but just more of the act for some parts of my material. And in the back of my head, there are times where I'm like, I could be a musician, I feel like I could do it. But at the same time, I'll be around real musicians and I'm like, oh, fuck that. That's long, man. I ain't got time to do all that. How is it for you?
Well, I always wrote songs. I wrote songs since school, and I wanted to be in some bands, and I was in probably 2 or 3 bands, and we hardly ever did anything. We didn't really gig or anything like that. So I always was interested in music. That show that got 1 star, I did. There was like 3 or 4 songs in it, and they were all really like sincere heartache. It was, really. I was a young kid that was writing from the heart, and people laughed at them because they were so sincere. And then I was like, right, they're comedy songs then. And then that was like, okay, so I think my level of comedy, my style of comedy with songs, I have different styles where one of them is like, I'm a guy that is singing something really rude, but he doesn't realise it.
Yeah.
Or there's one like part of the joke is that I got a song called "You Make Me Soar," right, and it's about like flying, but it's also about getting knob rot, right? And so, but I'm singing this song like it's about flying, but the whole chorus is "You Make Me Soar," right? And so that's like a song where I'm not in on the joke. And then some songs are really rude, and some songs I'm just finishing it. I'm finishing an album on Monday that will be out at some point, maybe before Christmas. And some of the songs on that's songs from over the last 10 years. And looking at the last 10 years of what I've done, some of them are funny, some of them are not funny, and really sort of like some of them are sad. It's like a really kind of like downbeat album. But it's kind of like what I find difficult about, and I don't see myself as a musical comedian. I'm a comedian that does music, which is a bit wanky, but I mean, I take
it, man. I say that. I say the same thing, man.
I feel like you have to draw that line and be like, I'm not a musical comedian, but kind of like a lot of the songs kind of. You can't just write a song. There's got to be an element to it which is either kind of like humorous or just outright funny, or it's got to serve some sort of purpose other than being a song. So it's difficult in a way because you write a song and you want the song to be a good song. It's got to be able to exist as a song.
Yeah.
So you could like put it on and go like, I love this song, right? And it's got to have some hooks to it. It's got to have a good chorus. It's got to have a guitar solo in there somewhere, and it's got to have all these bits to it to make it a real song. And then on top of that, it's got to also be funny or have some sort of justification of doing it on a comedy stage, which has good and bad kind of connotations. So, yeah, I mean, I did kind of want to be a musician, but like I said, I wanted to be a musician, wanted to be an actor, wanted to be a writer, wanted to be all those things. And then comedy's just opened that all up for me. And, because Uncle was about a musician, but it was originally about an out-of-work actor. And then they brought me on, and they were like, well, why Henry Normal, who's like my comedy dad, he used to run Baby Cow, he was just like, well, Nick's a musician, so why don't you make the character musician, and then Nick can do a song in every episode. And then I did songs in every episode, and then people come up to me. When I'm doing previews, I don't really do songs. I kind of leave that for the tour. So people come up to me at previews and go, you can do any songs? It's just not today, but come to the tour. So yeah, but I mean, I think I would have been happy doing anything creative. I've done office jobs and I've worked in pubs, and my favourite job ever was working in a pub. But office jobs killed me.
Yeah.
And
I always wanted to work in an office job,
Oh really?
Yeah.
I
just wanted to do admin. It sounded like the most important job in the office. I was like, yeah, I do admin, bro.
I used to work at Business Link in Hatfield.
Yeah.
And like Monday to Wednesday lunchtime, you would have to get all of these handwritten forms that people had filled in, and you would have to type in all their names. They'd be in those tiny little boxes, right? You type in all their names.
Yeah.
And then you type in, their postcodes and their phone numbers, and then you'd have to like do a little write-up, and you'd do that Monday to Wednesday. And you couldn't do it with a hangover because if you did it wrong, you'd have to do it again.
Yeah.
And you'd just do that. You'd sit at your desk and you'd do that all day.
Oh, my God.
Monday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday up to lunchtime. And on a Wednesday lunchtime to Friday, you stuffed envelopes. And you were like, thank fuck I'm stuffing envelopes. But then by the time you get to Friday, you go, can't wait to fill in them numbers. Do you know what I mean? And that was really, it was great to do that, to realise that it was like, I don't want to do this.
This is not what I want
to do. It gave me
do.
the kick in the arse to do it. And I was doing gigs that was about 2008, I was doing gigs in London. So, and the trains were always fucked. And so I'd do like a day at Business. Oh my God, I'm just remembering this. I'd do a day at Business Link, and then from Hatfield, I'd go into London, and I'd do I used to be like, what would you call it? I guess I was a showrunner for this show in Soho. And so I had to be there for the whole show. I did the tech box and everything like that. And then I'd miss the trains, and then we'd go out, I was like 27, I was like a little baby. And I was taken out by the guys that did it, and they'd take me out afterwards, and you'd go like, well, this might be good for my career. I'll have drinks with the people.
Yeah.
And then you'd miss your last train back. And so I remember I used to sit at Blackfriars Station until 5 o'clock in the morning, get the first train back, have an hour's sleep, and then go and do a whole day at Business Link again.
Fucking hell, man.
It was like, hardcore. That's great. That's something for the autobiography. I forgot all about that. That's amazing.
1 hour's sleep,
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Yeah, man. So you're on tour, right?
I'm going to be, yeah.
You're going to be on tour?
Next Friday.
Where can people buy the tickets and all that good stuff, man?
They can buy the tickets from nick-helm.co.uk. It starts on the 12th of September.
You excited about being back on tour?
Yeah,
it's 12th of September to November, right?
29th of November. 29th of November is Leicester Square.
Okay.
We're finishing London. And I've got one gig in St Albans, and where we moved to and I grew up. And that venue is twice as big as any of the other venues for some horrible reason.
Oh, right.
And it's like, not because we've sold it, just because they've gone, do you want to do the Alban Arena? And it's like, it's an 850 seater. And I was like, Oh man, it's like that's my hometown. I've never done a tour show in my hometown.
No way.
And I'm like,
How come? It never came up?
didn't
or?
want to. I
Yeah.
was scared. And now I'm doing it, and it's like, oh no, it's the worst possible.
No, you'll smash it though, man.
Yeah, I
You're
hope
gonna
so.
you'll probably get like loads of, I don't know, maybe old friends and stuff that will come to the show.
I think a lot of school friends, but then there's also people that come out of the woodwork, aren't there?
Yeah,
So
sometimes it's good though, man. Yeah.
But yeah. And my last tour show was my favourite show that I'd ever done, just like the show before that.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying the previews. I'm really enjoying doing the show. I'm really looking forward to going on tour. Every show is going to be slightly different. There's a bit of crowd work and audience stuff, some songs, some stand-up. It will make you feel incredible when you leave. Do you know what I mean? That's my goal. And so the songs and everything else, it's like I want to put on a variety show, a one-man variety show, and just bombard them with all of these different things, and by the end of it, they all leave happy. I can't wait. Really.
So your end, right? You speak about writing from a dark place and now enjoying writing from a light place. And I noticed you mentioned how you want to be the comic that can help up and coming comics. Especially working at like a Muse where you see a lot of new people coming through. And I feel like you've done a wide range of like comedy in a sense of like you've been going to Edinburgh, you've been on the panel shows, you've been on a sitcom, you're a comic who is able to, as well as do stand-up, you can incorporate music in it in some ways. So how do you look at your end in terms of how do you aspire to be that older comic that becomes the quote-unquote uncle for the new comics? How do you envision that in some ways? Because your route is super inspiring in a way where you spoke about even things on the pod that one people will listen to, but other comedians will listen to and say, "Oh my God, right? Like that's maybe how I write, or I write in a dark place." And I think some people might think it's okay to write in a dark place because you get the results, whereas you can write in the light and get the same results.
You can write about your experiences. Your dark experience, you can write about that, but if you're writing it from it in a place where you're happy, it's not like you're doing it for survival. You're doing it because you're creating something that you've got control over.
Yeah.
But what do you mean? Like, what advice have I got?
Yeah, because you're at a stage where your experience is so vast, and you're going to be that uncle figure within comedy. Do you know what I mean? So how do you look at passing that blueprint over to the comedians you want to try and help?
I would say most things I've done for the money have been my least favourite things.
Oh wow!
And the stuff that I've done which doesn't pay that well is the stuff that I enjoy the most. So there's that balance. But I would say that if you're doing it because you love doing it, I think people use it as a stepping stone, which is fine. But if you're doing it because you love doing it, then you can't fail. And if you're doing it because you love doing it, then you get good at it. Yeah. And then once you're good at it, then it's almost impossible to ignore you, right? So whether it's to be kind of like a TV personality or a film star or just a really good stand-up comedian, if you're doing it because you want to be a stand-up comedian, or if you're doing it for pure reasons, I think that it's sort of impossible to fail. And I also think the thing is, you need to know what you want, because I think that in the industry you get swept along by just looking over the fence and seeing what everyone else is up to, and you don't tend your own garden. And I just think that it's good to have blinkers sometimes and to not be looking at what everyone else is up to, and to just focus on what it is that you want, because you can get lost in that. You can get lost for years just like chasing stuff that you're not even interested in. And I know that kind of like when I was all swept up in kind of TV and stuff like that, it was just like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Wasn't enjoying anything. And I think like in 10 years' time, I just want to be like I want to still be doing, my comedy. There was a point where when I was doing TV, I kind of like was so relieved because I got so stressed about comedy. I'd never enjoyed it. I never enjoyed stand-up up until a point. And then I did TV. It's like, oh, thank fuck I'm doing TV. Because now I don't have to... And TV is the opposite of stand-up, where stand-up is door-to-door sales. And TV is like you get a wide audience, but you don't have to travel anywhere. And when I did TV, it was such a relief. And then during the pandemic, I kind of like stopped getting any TV work. And so it's like, oh, fuck, I've got to go back to doing stand-up, which I was terrified of. But then I was like, if I'm making my career, my living off of stand-up, I've got to start enjoying it. And so I just trained myself to enjoy it. And I worked out the best way for that is for me to kind of like just have less to remember. So I'd have like a couple of notes on my hand, and then I'd go out and I'd do it. And I kind of didn't want to think about the gig until like a minute before I had to go on stage. My dream was to walk into a club and they say my name and I just walk on stage, do my act, and then I come out again. But, you know, I had to train myself to get to that point. And now I kind of think, I feel like I'm the best comedian I've ever been. And I just want to get better. And that's it, really. It's kind of, if you know what you want and you work towards it, then I think what's fair about the industry is that it is achievable. You know, you can see that it's achievable because it happens for other people. But the other thing is, you know, there's only one of you. So other people might be getting these opportunities, but you're not that person. Do you know what I mean? And you shouldn't necessarily compare yourself to those people. You should kind of like just kind of work out what it is that you want and what you are, and then go for that, I think. But and enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, what's the point? Wise words from Nick Helm.
Nah, Nick, man, it's been a pleasure to have you on the pod, man. And that bit where you said, "Look at your own garden," because what do you say? If you don't look at your own garden,
I said, what is it? If you spend all your time looking over the fences, then you don't tend your own garden.
hey, that's a bar, man. Because I'll be looking at my neighbour's garden sometimes, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, that grass is really green,
we
man.
all do. We all slip into it. And then you lose time and you lose opportunities because you're chasing things that you're not even interested in. You know, so...
But Nick, man, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the pod, man. The tour is on sale now. Nick Helm, No One Gets Out Alive. Available online on your website and stuff, right? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the pod, bro.
Thanks for having me.
It's been such a pleasure, man. And this has been your beginning, middle, and end. Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate you, man. Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Now, a lot goes into making each episode. I know you hear my voice, but there's a team behind the scenes who help make it. And if you did enjoy it, I'd really, really appreciate if you could show the love to them by giving us 5 stars. And if you also have the time, please leave us a review. It's always appreciated, and we love reading the comments. And of course, we want to keep making it better. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Peace.